what you need to know when choosing a browser, and why you should care. This is MacVoices. Today's MacVoices is supported by MacVoices After Dark. Uncensored, off-topic, and always off the wall. MacVoices After Dark is available as a benefit to our Patreon subscribers. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That must mean this is MacVoices Live on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We have a bunch of our friends already in the chat room. Hopefully we'll have more joining us. We'd love to have you there too. So if you are within the sound of my voice, which would be kind of strange if you're not in the chat room, but if you are, come on in the chat room. And if you're hearing this after the fact, just mark it in your calendars because we do this every Tuesday night at the designated time. We'd love to have you join us. Interesting panel tonight, some interesting topics and things. Some of them I would anticipate going only just a couple minutes, and which probably means they will go more like 40 or 50. That's just the way that seems to work around here. But we'll still get through a bunch of them. So let's go around the horn and see who all's here, and then we'll get to it. First up, as always, Mr. David Ginsburg is in the top left of my screen. David, good to have you.
Good to be here, Chuck. Thanks for having me. It's going to be another great week to look forward to at Mac Voices and talking with our friends. And should we have some interesting conversations? I like the topics this tonight.
Yeah, a lot of kind of little things, but I think important things to talk about.
Yeah.
Brian Flanigan-Arthurs is here as well. Brian, good to have you back as always.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Yeah. I understand you got a little more done today, had a little extra time, so we're expecting great things out of you.
All right. Thank you. Hope I can meet those expectations.
No pressure.
Oh.
Jim Ray has joined us as well. There's always pressure on Jim.
That's who? I'm a laid-back Californian.
Oh, is that it? Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, then there's no pressure on Jim, and apparently we can't apply any. Can I apply any to Mr. Jeff Gamet? I'm not sure. Jeff, how are you?
No. Well, first, I'm fine. No, you can't apply any pressure to me because you had one expectation. It has been met, and I'm good for the rest of the night after that.
Okay, that's a fair point. I like it. I'm not sure if he's getting paid for his background tonight or not, but if he is paid, good for him. Mark Fuccio is here. Mark, good to see you.
Hello, Chuck. Hello, panel. Hello, listeners. No, I guess the story for this is didn't have any creative thoughts for tonight's topics because they're all over the map. But I got a delivery of a new Epson printer to replace one that wasn't working so well. So I have a new toy here to install later tonight or tomorrow.
Good. Okay. Well, that's good. That may set a trend. We should all maybe post backgrounds of what our latest toys are. Okay, maybe not.
Okay.
I'm in.
Okay, now I'm getting paid for my background.
Yeah. Good point, Jim. Good. Last but absolutely not least, with yet another growing thing behind him, is Mr. Eric Bolden. Eric, good to have you.
It's good to be here. I really need to kind of practice this background. I didn't realize that the camera just keeps readjusting things to put me in the middle of it, right over the top. It's a weeping peach, but you can't actually see it because it lines me up right smack dab in front of it. So I guess that's like crying. It wants attention.
It's a weeping peach. Is that a particular kind of peach that you can eat, or is it just a plant?
And you can eat. It's ornamental, but it actually produces peaches that you can eat, and they're good peaches too. Unfortunately, most of the flowers froze off, so I might get 2 peaches this year, but it still looks good.
Okay. Well, hey, we all learned something tonight that next time you eat a peach, it may be a weeping peach. And we're going to leave that there. Okay. So let's get started tonight with a contradictory set of stories. I'm going to oh shoot, that's not the one I wanted. I'm going to throw 2 links in our private chat, and then ask everyone to figure out what the heck is going on. This is one. 9 to 5 Mac says Safari is the second most used web browser behind Chrome, but then Cult of Mac says Safari browser passes Microsoft Edge in popularity. Yet there were
Those
other
are saying
stories.
the same. Those are saying the same thing.
Those are saying the same thing, but there are other stories out there that saying Edge is now in second place. And I don't know quite what to make of this. And I mean, in some ways, I wouldn't be hugely surprised if Edge is up there, given all the recent publicity about Microsoft and AI in Bing. And as I understand it, it's built into Edge. So is this even important? Does anybody care?
You should care because 2 of the companies that have browsers that are in the top 3, meaning Chrome and Edge, are companies that have a history of trying to use their browser as a tool to weaponize control and to become the de facto standard. Remember back in the day when Microsoft put all the special bells and whistles into Explorer, and so people would code their websites specifically for Microsoft Explorer, and websites would break in other browsers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So yeah, we should care because these companies have a track record of not acting in an altruistic manner with features that they add to their products.
Well, Jeff, I would think that that's a little bit of maybe the last war, but your comment on the character of the company, I think, is important, because I think now they're not going to overtly do stuff to break pages, but rather they're going to figure out how to better spy and track on people. If again, it goes back to that old, if you're not paying for it, you're the product the company is selling. We know Microsoft seems to be wanting, its share of ad revenue, and it's trying to use ChatGPT integrated into Edge as a mechanism to make that happen, and try to beat up on Google, which has been shameless in terms of how it profiles people. And probably it's only less shameful than, a company everyone calls Facebook, even though they think their name is Meta. But, they're a little bit confused, I guess. But but anyway, back to the point about the browsers. I think, having read one of them and then saw the other one, part of it is how the data is measured and represented. And are they talking about all of Safari, or are they talking about Safari on the desktop? Ditto for Edge, what time period? And then there's just the fact that this is collected as a statistical sample that one company has to get information. So it may be a good proxy for the truth, or it may be wildly inaccurate. As Jim Ray pointed out in critiquing one of these articles, WTF, the share of Linux desktop browsers went up, in over a span of a couple of months. Stuff like that really doesn't give a strong confidence that it's a particularly robust, sampling method. But it could also be that for such small things, doubling is possible. Whereas if you're at
I don't think so. And actually, if you went and looked at the study, it turned out I was wrong, because I was just taking what it said was the Mac share and the Windows share, and then subtracting that from 100, thinking, well, the rest must be Linux. What else is there? Linux and Unix. But if you go look at the study, they said, Mac was 19%, Windows was 65%, and Linux was like 3%, and 13% was other. Well, what the heck is other? There's, what else could that be? So again, what is this, methodology? I tend to think that these numbers are just garbage. Also, if you're comparing Safari versus Edge, that's kind of a weird comparison because the Safari numbers are guaranteed 100% Mac users because Safari doesn't run on anything but a Mac, whereas Edge is probably mostly Windows. I guess Edge is available for Mac. I don't know about Linux, but I assume the adoption is small on anything other than Windows. I mean, it's not that big even on Windows, but so, what does it mean? Who cares what the comparison is? Mac users are using Safari.
Well, the data that they have, I'm looking at their chart where it's aggregate for all platforms. So when you're talking about Safari, you're talking about every device that can run Safari. So Mac, iPad, iPhone.
The article said desktop.
Yeah, well, maybe they should actually go and look at the data instead of just saying desktop, because if you look at the data where it's combined for all devices that can run that browser, I mean, here you have Chrome. Of course, it's going to be going to have a much higher penetration because now you have to take into account all of the Android devices that are running Chrome, all those smartphones that are out there, and then let's see. Then where's Edge in this? Oh, okay, man. When you get past Safari, it's like everything is just clumped together in the chart.
Dude, the 9 to 5 article doesn't even link to the original.
Yeah, how about that?
So let's see.
I thought it did.
Cult of Mac had it.
Well, here, I'm going to share a link with us to the chart that I'm looking at right now, since I apparently can't share it on YouTube.
Well, this stat counter, it says desktop operating system market share. Although this doesn't even say, they're not linking to the right thing. So yeah, where's the one for the
scroll down
browsers?
So scroll down and you'll see all platforms.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one to me that matters.
Yeah, but that's operating system market share. Where's the one that says anything about
new browser market share by platform? That's not by.
I see operating system market share. Operating system.
Then you're not looking at the right page.
I clicked the link in the Cult of Mac article.
All right, let me click the link that I put in our chat.
Yeah, that's the same link that's in 9 to 5 Mac.
And you get browser market share worldwide.
Right.
And I've selected all platforms.
Okay. Well, maybe the Cult of Mac had a different link. Safari. Well, yeah, and these have this shows that Safari is blowing away Edge.
Well, sure.
Whereas the other one, that's probably because it's all flat. But if you go to desktop, then they're very close.
Sure. Because now you've taken iPhone and iPad out of the mix.
Right.
Yeah.
This conversation just goes to show you how
screw the article. Let's look at the actual data.
Yeah, but just how data can be manipulated, not just for clickbait headlines, but also to say what somebody wants it to say. Without doing full disclosure on desktop versus desktop and mobile versus mobile, and which platforms you're talking about, you can make this say almost anything you want it to say.
What's interesting, if you go to mobile, again, it's Chrome is really big. Safari is like a little big, but it's almost like desktop, it's immaterial. Desktops, they hardly change. because desktop usage is almost nothing compared to mobile usage.
Yeah, and when you look at the mobile market share chart, my guess is that if we overlaid a market share for smartphone platforms, it would track with this. And so you'd have Chrome at the top.
It almost has to.
And then, yeah. And so you can see Samsung is a distant third to Chrome or to Android and iOS just by looking at the mobile browser market share chart.
You can edit the chart. Yay! And I kind of wonder too about mobile, browser share, because, like, I don't know about you, I rarely use a browser on mobile devices. I do most things through apps. Minority. I do things through apps. I don't, going to a web browser is like, that's last resort. There's just something absolutely, if I read my email in an app, I look at maps in an app, I look at RSS in an app, I look at social media in an app.
I get what you're saying. Okay, I'm with you now.
Okay, so let's take a little poll, because I'm curious about that, because I'm using Safari on my phone all the time. So how many people use a web browser as a web browser, even if you're accessing something that has an app? How many hands do we have? Yeah.
Why?
So,
it's a terrible experience.
Well, I mean,
it depends on what I'm using it for. For example, when I go to Facebook, I'm not going to put their app on my phone. That's hot garbage right there.
I just don't use Facebook, full stop.
Sure. But you're in the minority for that one.
But I'll bet most people use the app for Facebook.
I agree. Most people use the app for Facebook. I would venture that most people are using the Twitter app. If they're still on Twitter.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It is. It hasn't broken yet.
Yeah, I use the Twitter app when I look there. I use Ivory or Ice Cubes for Mastodon. I have an RSS reader for that.
But I'm always going and looking up things that don't have an app.
Chuck, I'm with you on that. I just opened Safari on my iPhone. I currently have 41 tabs open, and yesterday I actually closed a bucket load of tabs, and I still have 41 tabs open in mobile Safari on my iPhone.
I probably have a bunch of tabs because I almost never close them. But I'm still, my usage of the browser on the desktop is a couple orders of magnitude more than it is on the phone. And, usually if there's something like I really need a browser, I'll probably I better go to my desk and, because it's, unless it's just something really simple, it's just so painful. Most, a lot of apps, the mobile experience is just terrible.
Eric, Brian, David, you guys jump in here. I mean,
Yep.
do you guys use Safari, whether you have an app for the application or the service or whatever or not, or are you looking up things that don't have apps?
I spend a lot of time in a browser. I might start with an app. Like if I'm going someplace, I'll be in a map app, but then I want to find a place to eat or see when it closes or whatever. And I click on the website of whatever it is and just open it up so I can get quick information without having to go download an app. And then, it's just faster.
Do that right within Google Maps. And it's got a great little interface, even tells you popular, how busy it's likely to be. It's got, the closing times. In fact, if you go navigate to it, it'll be like, that place is closing within an hour. Are you sure you want to go there?
Well, if I in mobile Safari and I type the business name for search, it's searching Google, and now I've got Google Maps happening right there. Right.
But I just think, like the interface in Safari it's just not as nice in the browser as it is in the app.
And I'm not suggesting that you're doing anything wrong or right, Jim. It's more about how we all are using it. You apparently use it a bit differently than Eric and I do.
I'm not saying I don't use Safari at all, or I'm just saying it's like a last ditch. Like, there's no other way to do it, and this is something I need to do right now, and it can't wait till I'm at a bigger machine.
Yeah. Brian?
Looking at it from an angle of saying, whatever the right tool is for the job. So oftentimes if it's an app or it's a service that I'm looking at on a regular basis, I'm using the app on the mobile device. And then, on the desktop, I'm using a web browser. But there are occasions, I think, similar to what Eric mentioned about maybe you're looking at a restaurant, but you want more than just what's offered on the maps, whether it's Apple Maps or Google Maps, where you want to go to the actual website of the particular restaurants. In those types of cases, I do that too. One thing
I will do that, but if I need that information, but restaurant, I think that's a good example where restaurants tend to have non-responsive web pages, and you're like, they're big. Well, you're in Silicon Valley, Mark, so maybe it's different there.
Like that. Really, you found yourself?
At least you usually don't have find flash on them anymore. Those used to be a big offender for the restaurant had flash on the website, and
good times.
Yeah,
yeah,
But anyway, I'm kind of lost. We started out talking about relative browser share. Now we're talking about how we use, Safari or Chrome on a mobile device instead of a native app.
You don't seem lost. You're right up to speed with exactly what's happening.
And then maybe I'm just bored by this topic.
Yeah. Well, Webb is in our chat room. He couldn't be with us tonight, but he's raised his hand and he said, for example, I use my bank app and not the browser. Hey, for a bank, absolutely, Webb. I always use the app, because I feel like it's, it's usually a better experience because they do such a great job with the websites, and B, I would like to think there's a little more security. David, how about you?
Yeah, I was going to say, between browsers on a mobile device, I'm on iPhone all the time, Safari. I have all the other browsers installed, but I've found that the Safari just meets my needs. But I'm all over the place on the desktop platform. On my home and personal machines on Mac, I use Firefox. At work, I use Edge. So I'm kind of like, all over the place when it comes to what browser do I feel the experience in. But you know what? I kind of like that because I want to have that immersible experience between all the browsers, those three browsers. So I have that understanding how they work. But it's interesting to look at some of the stats here. As I saw, you could change it to bars instead of those lines where you couldn't see what the heck was it. And you bring down if you narrow down the browser share in the U.S. for mobile devices, then Safari is pure number one, 52% over Chrome, 41%. So it's all dependent on what part of the world these browsers are being used at. So the U.S. is obviously that way because a lot of people are using them on their iPhones. Obviously, so interesting to see. But no, when it comes to those types of with all the browsers, I like many of us here. We like to see what the experience is between the core. I would use Chrome a lot in the past. I probably haven't used Chrome much in the last 6 to 12 months. I used all the other ones I mentioned. So,
Dave, I think you might have misunderstood me. I when I use a browser on my mobile device, it's only Safari. I don't have any others installed.
Right.
I guess what I'm saying is, let's say if you put a packet analyzer on my phone, and how much of the HTTP traffic coming out of that was coming out of a web browser versus out of applications, which are mostly talking to their services with HTTP also. Just because you're using an app, you're still basically using the web, but it's transmitting it in JSON or something. So on my phone, at least, I'll bet 96% of the traffic would be from apps, rather than from a browser. That's what I'm saying. And I could easily go days without firing up a mobile browser.
I can easily go minutes.
Yeah. But again, there's no right or wrong here. It's just, I think it's just interesting to see how we all use things. Jim, to your point, if I were using, if I really hit Twitter and Facebook heavily, then I'm going to be using those apps. But for so many things that I do with my phone, there's either not an app or the app has not been appealing enough for me to use. And I just go ahead and use the web browser. And unless they've done a really terrible job of the web page, it's good enough. It's good enough. Hey, we're going to move on because, as I said when we started, a few minutes article ends up taking a long time. And I should also mention, folks, that you'll find links to all these articles that we're talking about in the show notes when this show goes live on the MacVoices feed. This one is a complete throwaway article, but I just feel like it needs to be brought up. Yeah. This is from Apple World Today. Sales revenue for item trackers such as Apple's AirTags have increased 82% this year in the U.S. And there was a story I heard the other day on one of the news shows. I did not find a link for it. That I guess I believe police in New York are handing out AirTags.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
yeah, I heard that.
So
500 of them.
Yeah. So I shake my head at this and say, AirTags. 1 minute they're demonized, the next minute the police are handing them out.
Well, are they handing them out so that it's easier to track people, or
no, auto theft?
Cars.
Auto theft.
Which Apple says you're not supposed to use it for theft.
Right. But, the street's going to find its own uses for things. And, and I mean, hey, I've been traveling some in April and there was an AirTag in every one of my bags, always. So
I think I'm not surprised after after all the horrible plane crashes in holiday season last year. I'm not surprised people are deciding, okay, if we're going to go traveling again in 2023, got to update our tech and figure out how to track our bag so we know where it is.
I have to say I absolutely love the whole AirTags for traveling, because I'm doing something unusual. I'm used to knowing about how many bags I have, and I have the same items with me. But when I travel, then I change my behavior. And I can put an AirTag in my camera lens, an AirTag in my camera bag, in my just general backpack. And each one of my bags can get a different AirTag. It can identify what the bag is. And then each day when I start out, I pick up whatever bags I have, walk out the door, pause a moment, and it says, oh, hey, we're missing this bag, and this bag, but you have 4 bags with you, and it's the following. And then all day long, I know I have 4 bags that should be with me, and if at any point I step outside of a store or outside of a restaurant and the count's not right, or it immediately says, oh, hey, you left something behind, I can go right back in, pick up the bag I left under the chair, and it's a much happier experience. It just works.
I notice these AirPods Max, it doesn't notice that I've left them behind until I'm 10 miles away. And I meant to leave them behind, but it's like, wait, why are you waiting till they're 10 miles away to tell me? Eric, did you say you put an AirTag in your camera lens?
Yeah, my camera, I've got a long lens that has its own bag, and I just put it in the bottom part of the bag.
Oh, in the bag. Okay. I was envisioning underneath the lens cover or something.
Well, because I don't always carry it with me. So, it's one of those things where it's easy as a separate item to forget.
No, that makes for you just said in the lens, and I thought, oh, does he stick it, because
Barry in the chat room points out these were being given out to specific neighborhoods, and then Webb jumped in and said the user gets the setup. The NYPD does not follow the tracker, which we sort of knew that, I think, but they're giving them a way to stop over 4,000 car thefts.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they're alerting thieves that if you're going to steal a car, you better have an iPhone on you to tell you that there's a tracker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe so. But, on the other hand, I mean, the thieves aren't maybe that sophisticated. And if they're going to try to steal that vehicle, they are going to have to find the AirTag. And if you've buried that AirTag somewhere that, instead of just throwing it in the glove compartment, if you've buried it somewhere, might not be easy to find.
It's
They
just
can
like
find
the
it
old-
faster than the police can catch you.
Hey, Jim, if you spent any time watching TV at all, you would know good guys carry iPhones, bad guys carry Android phones. So putting the AirTag in your car totally makes sense. The bad guys aren't going to know it's there.
I thought the good guys
man,
use
I wish
Surface
Google-
laptops.
Jeff, I wish Google made their own videos. That would be completely reversed in that world.
Yep. Well, first, Google would have to make a tracker.
They'll copy somebody.
I love this because look, if nothing else, it's a deterrent. And, we're almost back to the thing of, okay, I have an AirTag in my car. So if you're a thief, you probably are going to move on from my car to the car that doesn't have one.
Maybe,
Yeah.
depending. But aren't there thieves that are like, designer, like, go steal one of these? And I'll bet those. But Jeff, to your point about Google making a tracker, are they? Didn't I see something? Maybe they are doing that, and there's some new initiative that Apple and Google are working together on, so that, like, at least so that Android, phones will be able to track, AirTags or know that they're there. And
yes, what they're doing. So Apple and Google have partnered to create a standard for alerting you if there is a tracker with you, and so it's going to be an open industry standard. And so they've submitted this, and now all of these companies that are making trackers,
right,
they can weigh in. And
It's Chipotle, right?
Yes. So you can track your burrito. Yep. So Google doesn't have to actually make a tracker to support this, because then they can just hook it into Android, and whatever tracker someone makes, it can alert you that it's there.
So, Jeff, what network will this run on? Is this going to run on the infrastructure for Apple's Find My?
I'm assuming it'll run on Bluetooth and just let you know locally that the tracker is near you. Because this isn't about this isn't about using an Android to track where an AirTag is. It's to let you know an AirTag or Tile or whatever that isn't yours is with you.
Okay. All right.
And AirTags are already using compatible radios, and I think it's some Bluetooth variation. So, because it sounds like they're not going to have to change AirTags. Like, existing AirTags will work with this new standard. It sounds like
that's what it sounds like to me too.
I knew this. I knew this would happen. I knew this would trigger a discussion.
Actually, I'm glad that came up, because I think that's maybe the most important story about what's going on with this part of the market, is that is going to be extended to all phones.
Yeah, let's hope it happens, because that whoever said it before, you don't want to use these to track people unless you are intending to use them to track people, like, Alzheimer's patients or something like that, or someone who has dementia. Then that's a perfectly legitimate reason to track a person. But
is that why I keep finding AirTags in my pockets?
We know where
are you again?
Every given moment, Jeff.
Yeah, if they're all from all your new friends that you make every day.
Right?
Yeah.
I am right here in this little box. Can never escape.
Next time on Mac Voices, the panel discusses a new way to get on Mastodon that's a little bit easier, a fake AirPods bust, and what jobs are most being affected by ChatGPT. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, Consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.